release went out yesterday from the acting commissioner of the Social Security Administration about 100% withholding for some people. So we're going to talk about that new press release. And unfortunately, the last two paragraphs of that press release are very, very concerning and rather cruel. And so we're going to talk about that today. It's going to be very, very difficult if some of the things that a lot of people that a lot of people believe that Social Security employees are, believe, the ones that have recently been voluntold to leave the agency. The previous commissioner of the Social Security Administration is talking about possibly some system interruptions here with the Social Security Administration in the next 30 to 90 days. And we're going to talk about all of that today. If you're new to my channel, my name is Ed Weir. I ran the third busiest Social Security office in the country. And now in my semi-retirement, I'm helping y'all make sure you get everything you're entitled to, earned, need from the Social Security Administration: retirement benefits, survivor benefits, disability, Medicare, and Medicaid. And this is also a live Q&A. So I'm going to talk about this for about 10, 15 minutes, and then I'll get into about 45 minutes of questions. So ask any questions, just type them in the chat there, and I'll get to as many as possible. I can only see chat questions from YouTube right now. I broadcast on several different platforms, but the other platforms I really can't see the questions, unfortunately. So if you got questions, please make sure you go over to YouTube. I'm sure TikTok and all the rest are going to kick me off now that because I said that. But anyway, and there's a bunch of people out there that have 100% faith in in Elon Musk and Doge and all the rest of it, and they think this is all fear mongering and stuff. And if that's you, you have 100% faith, and you think everything is going to be okay, and your local office is going to be okay, and they're going to be able to help you and sort out any issues you might have. And I'll talk about what type of issues actually might arise because of all this. And I'm going to give you some insider tips, tricks, and secrets on how to get those fixed, workarounds. But if you're 100%, you have 100% faith in the current system, the way it's happening right now, then you don't need to watch any longer. Bye. I'm sure there's some cat videos somewhere, but if you have, you're betting your check on this, you're betting your medications on this, and if you have 100% faith, then we'll see you next time. But for those of you that want to make sure you're prepared, let's get into it today. All right. So system breakdown. The previous commissioner of the Social Security Administration, Martin O'Malley, kind of gave a high level, his analysis of the systems, of, the computer systems. And then, Social Security has been begging Congress for decades, please, we need to update the system. It's running on the old 1970s COBOL. And we've been, putting lipstick on this pig for decades. And one day it's going to break down. I'm amazed that it hasn't broke down already. Again, I ran the third busiest Social Security office in the country, and probably about once a year or so, it was, the computer system was down for about a day or a few hours or something. Most of the time in my office over, let's say a decade, I think half of the time it was down for a few hours because of some type of system issue. Again, they've been putting the system, trying to keep it running with kind of, bubble gum and string, because Congress is refusing to give them resources to, fix it, because the people that are in charge of the purse don't want Social Security to fix it. They want what's happening now. They want the entire system to break. And that way they can come in there and pick up the pieces and give this piece to this, particular, sponsor, and this piece to Wall Street, and this piece to whoever. So they've always wanted to break, and they're getting their, they're very, very happy now. So, but probably in my particular office, what's gone down is just a power outage. Longest it's went down was about 8 hours or so. And I guess there was an accident down the street, and somebody ran into the telephone pole, and so we lost electricity so it just gives you an idea of how phenomenal the people that have been running the computer system, because you hear about, all the time, during Thanksgiving weekend, some, airline, they've canceled all these flights because the computer system is down, the credit card, this system is down. Social Security really hasn't had that, even though they're running on 1970s technology. So that's a testament to how awesome the people that have been keeping this system up with bubblegum and string, but now we've got brand new people in there, because a lot of the people that have been keeping, been using bubblegum on this system and have been doing a phenomenal job with it, have been summarily, as we used to say in the Marine Corps, voluntarily told to exit the premises. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. So now we've got new people in here, and because of the system being so complex, because they've got the basic underlying system, but Social Security has been putting, lipstick on that pig for decades. And if somebody goes in there and they don't really know, they say, well, let's try this. It just might have a cascade effect, a domino effect throughout the agency, and there might be interruptions. And the people that have money, you can be without a check for a month or 2 months or 3 months until the system comes up, until they, you're able to contact Social Security. And so we're going to talk about those today on, what to watch out for. And if this happens to you, I'm going to give you some insider tips and tricks. Okay, so that's a system breakdown. What about your particular case? If you need particular help, what type of things are we talking about? If you don't get your check, there'll be several reasons you don't get your check: because of a work report, an overpayment. I'll get to the overpayment, the new press release on the overpayment here in a little bit. But one of the things that the biggest issue that the Social Security Administration has been dealing with in terms of fraud is people pretending to be you and then calling up Social Security or getting into your My Social Security account and changing your direct deposit. And then your money goes someplace else. And previously, you don't get your check on, the 2nd or the 15th or whatever the case may be. You call up Social Security, or you go down to the local office and you get it fixed. If it's a dire need situation, you get an eviction notice, or they're going to shut off your electricity. Go down to the local office. They give you a check out of the office. You take it down to the bank. Usually the bank has to call the local office back because it's a strange paper check. But anyway, but you're able to get your money. But now, that was in the old days. Old days, AKA last week, before they started getting rid of all these people. We're talking about 7,000 people, and the people that they're getting rid of are the people, the real experts at Social Security Administration, the people that have been there for decades that really know their stuff. They've been kind of, pushed out, early retirement, forced, or otherwise. And there's no rhyme or reason. So here's the issue. People think they've got this false sense of security that their local office, okay, if something happens to me, if, I don't get my Medicare card, I don't get my check, whatever the case may be. I just drove by my Social Security office the other day, and it's open. So I shouldn't have any issue. So Ed is just fear mongering, so I don't need to worry about it. Your office, the doors might be open, but as I talked about a couple of 3 days ago, the internal workings of the Social Security offices, there are different programs: Title II, Title 16, CSRs. So Title II of the Social Security Act, before I became the manager, I was a Title II claim specialist. The Title II claim specialist, the processes work based on Title II of the Social Security Act: retirement, survivor benefits, SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, disabled adult child benefits, those type of claim, Medicare, and Title 16 CSs, Title 16 claim specialists. Those are the ones that process SSI, supplemental security income. Okay. And those are completely different systems, computer systems plus policies. And this group doesn't really know what this group is doing. This group doesn't really know or can't really process those type of claims because they're different. They've been trained on different things. And then you got the CSRs, the claims, the customer service representatives. Those are just generalists in the front that don't really process claim. They just help with post-entitlement type issues. So super long story short, I want to get too much into the weeds here. Your office might be open, but maybe all of the Title II people have retired, and now your office is just made up of SSI people. So if you're looking for, file for retirement, you've got a Medicare issue, you've got, your spouse passed away, you've got a surviving, you need to file a surviving spouse claim or something like that, and you go to your local office, there's nobody there. Even there's like 15 people there, there's nobody there really to help you. So that is a big worry. So, what's the issue out there is, well, if you got money, as the previous commissioner of Social Security said, you might want to have, save some money. That's, I've got a lot of people put in their remarks as I'm barely getting by right now. What do you mean save money? I can barely, go from month to month. I can't be without a check. I can't save money. And that's where the people that are just living in the millions of people that just living on Social Security alone are going to have a big issue. So if somebody goes in there and, change your direct deposit, there was an entire team that prevented that, and they did a pretty good job. But those have been summarily, left the agency. So that is probably going to happen more. But so if you lose your check, normally, again, you go into the Social Security office and they can help you out. Again, you just might have to be without a check for a month or 2 months or 3 months because your local office might be closed, completely closed, or effectively closed. If your spouse dies and you need to go and file for survivor benefits, you won't be able to possibly get a check for a month or 2 months or 3 months because there's nobody in the local office to process that claim. So, you and your spouse are receiving, you receiving your check, and he or she was receiving their check. And then one of those checks stops, and you're supposed to get, basically the difference. And you just might have to live for a month or 2 months or 3 months without that. So people just unfortunately can't do that. If you all of a sudden lose your job and need to file for retirement benefits, you maybe want to, consider having some extra money there to wait until you get your retirement benefits. If you've been receiving Social Security benefits and you lose your job or you decide to quit all of a sudden and you want to go ahead and sign up for Medicare during the Medicare, special enrollment period, which is basically after you're 65, you don't have to sign up for Medicare at 65 if you're currently working, currently receiving health insurance from your work or your spouse's work. But if you lose your current health insurance, then you fill out a couple of forms, 40B, 564, take one to your employer, then take those down to the Social Security Administration, and you sign up for the special enrollment period to get your Part B, and that way you can get your Part D started, your prescription drug plan, and all the rest of it, and then cover all the gaps of original Medicare. If that happens all of a sudden and you need your Medicare to start the next month within a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, then you just might be without Medicare for a month or 2 months or 3 weeks or 3 months. So, if you're going to stop working, 2 or 3 months from now, please, everybody, if you're going to be filing something soon, do it as soon as possible. You can file up to 3 months out. But if something happens unexpectedly like that, then might be a good idea to have maybe some extra medications or something like that. Talk to your doctors and say, hey, just in case I do lose my job all of a sudden and I can't sign up for Medicare as quickly as I need to, what can I do? So there is a lot of Okay, let me go into the new overpayment policy before I get into some of the other solutions here that you that you might have. All right, so March 7th, a press release, Social Security to reinstate overpayment recovery rates. So if you have an overpayment, even if it's not your fault, somebody stole your information, you notified Social Security that you're working, but they didn't put it into the system because there's nobody there to put it in the system, and then all of a sudden you receive an overpayment. Again, it's not your fault, doesn't matter. You get an overpayment. You're paid too much from the Social Security Administration. Previously, they would withhold automatically 10% of your check. And why did they do that? It just basically says, hey, we sent you an overpayment letter, and maybe you didn't get it, but if we if we withhold 10% of your check, you'll probably contact us so we can make arrangements on this overpayment. It used to be 100%, and they put down there full withholding. It was during the Trump. So yes, it used to be 100%. So the same type of situation, you get an overpayment. And before, yes, during the Obama administration, during the previous Trump administration, it was 100%. So they would withhold 100% of your check. And which wasn't a great idea because, if you're poor and that's the only thing you're surviving on and you just didn't get your mail about the overpayment or whatever the case may be, then you didn't get a check for a month or 2 months or so. And so that's the way it was for a long time. Okay, that's fine. During the previous Obama and Trump administration, and during the Clinton administration, and during the Bush administration, that's the way it was. So they're saying we're just going back to the way that policy is. Okay, that's fine, but these last two paragraphs, that's the cruel part. Under the previous Trump administration, 100% withholding of your check. Under the Obama administration, 100% withholding of your check. Okay, that means you need to go in the Social Security Administration and get that addressed. During the previous Trump administration and during the previous Obama administration, there was a Social Security Administration. You could go in there and get your check, get your check addressed. But as of a few months ago, because of the dismantling of the agency in terms of staffing, they were already at a 50-year low 2 weeks ago, 50-year low in terms of staffing. Now it's going to be, going back to 1935 numbers. So now you get 100% of your check withheld, and they say, hey, if you can't do it, give us a call, contact us. Have you tried calling Social Security recently? If you've got an issue, file an appeal. Have you contacted the Social Security Administration recently? So sure, they're returning to the way it was before, but the situation is not like it was before. So if you lose your check for a month or 2 months or 3 months while you're trying to figure it out, eventually, they will figure it out. And if it wasn't your fault, they say, okay, all right, it wasn't your fault. We'll go ahead and give you, but how is that going to fix you for that month or 2 months or 3 months with your out of check? They'll give it to you eventually after 3 months or whatever. And so you will just won't have a check. So this is where the low income people are really going to pay. If you've got money, you kind of, float it for a couple, 3 months, then you're good. But those people out there that don't have that money are going to be really, really in a jam. And because their check is being withheld, not paying Medicare. So their Medicare might be canceled. And if their Medicare cancels, no medications, no health care, all the rest of it. So this is a trickle-down effect. Even the acting commissioner of the Social Security Administration, a Doge guy, says, hey, I'm not in charge of this. I'm just following orders, from Doge and Elon Musk. And he admits these guys really don't know the nuances of the agency, but I have to follow their orders, and this is what they're telling me to do. So this is what, and I know it's going to hurt a lot of people. This is, paraphrasing what I guess an internal meeting. I know this is not good, but I'm just following orders. And, historically that never, study history. Anyway, and people on SSI, the real low income, the real people suffering out there. SSI is supplemental security income. It's a welfare-based program the Social Security administers. For low income, low resources. If you're under 65, you can get SSI based on being disabled, 65 and older, SSI aged. So a lot of people that are receiving SSI this year, the max you can get is $967 a month. And then you might be eligible for, Medicaid. Well, usually if you're eligible for SSI, you're categorically eligible for Medicaid from your state if, Medicaid continues here, but we'll see about that one. But SSI, one of the things on SSI is that they have to report any type of earnings or living in arrangement changes or anything like that. And SSI takes a lot more interaction with the Social Security Administration. Once you file for retirement benefits, just regular retirement benefits at your full retirement age, then you can go, a decade without really contacting Social Security. You're pretty much good, unless you change your address or something like that, need a 1099 or something. But SSI, these people have to continuously interact with the Social Security Administration, RZs, redeterminations, all the rest of it. And if there's nobody there to interact, then all kinds of terrible things can happen. They don't get their check, they get overpaid, they have to, it's going to be a terrible situation for those who are on SSI. So if that's not you, if you're one of those retirement people that, okay, I've got my check, I'm good. I don't think anybody's going to steal my information. And, I've got, some money in the bank, so I don't care. Great. Awesome. But I'm sure you know somebody that is not in your situation, your family, relatives, coworkers, little old lady down the street, people in your community. So please think about those people. And yeah, reach out to them and say, hey, we need to come up with a plan B, just in case something like this happens. Are you good? Can you be without a check for a month or two? Can you be without medications? Hopefully, hopefully none of this happens. Hopefully none of this happens, but it's always be prepared. I'm an old Marine Corps sergeant, so it's always good to have plan B. All right. So some of the things you can do is, one thing is print your record. Go into Social Security, SSA.gov, go into mysocialsecurity.gov, print your record, print your work history, print how much your monthly benefit amount is, how much you pay for Medicare, make a hard copy of that. If you don't have a printer or anything like that, go down to your local library and say, hey, I want to print off all my stuff. Go to a senior center, go to a friend, whoever, grandchild, son, daughter, whoever, and say, hey, I want to print off my entire file. Because if Doge and the rest of them start going in there and pushing buttons and, oh, let's try this. And y'all saw what happened with Elon Musk's SpaceX rocket a few days ago. It blew up. He's been doing rocket for a few years and it keep blowing up. And hey, it happens. So he's got a few more $1 billion. He can build another one. But if your Social Security check blows up, I don't think you can call him and say, hey, can you float me for a few months? I don't think he's willing to do that. So print your record. I talked about this a few days ago. I mentioned that in Japan, when they switched from one Social Security system, they kind of digitized everything. They switched their system. They lost 50 million records. 50 million Social Security records. The prime minister lost his job because of it. And yeah, it became a big scandal. So it does happen. And hopefully it doesn't happen in the United States, but yeah. Another thing is protective filing. So if you are in the process of filing for benefits or you're about to file for benefits, protective filing to protect your benefits. So if you call in March and want to file for retirement benefits or disability benefits or survivor benefits or whatever the case may be, and you can't get an appointment for a month or 2 months or 3 months, as long as you call that particular month, you're protected for that month. So if 2 months, 3 months later, they finally, process your claim, they will pay you back to the month you contacted them. So one of the insider tips is if you call up Social Security and you're on hold for hours and hours and hours because there's nobody there to pick up the phones, then take a screenshot, a picture, whatever the case may be, of your phone that shows, hey, I'm calling the 800-772-1213, the Social Security Administration, and I've been on hold for an hour, 2 hours. Take a little picture of that, or your phone bill if you can't take a picture of your phone, and keep that. And that way, when you do get your appointment, say, hey, by the way, I wanted my benefits to start 3 months ago, and here's proof I tried to call y'all, and y'all didn't pick up the phone. So that is one way to protect yourself. And another way is it can't be used for everybody, but there's over 1,200 offices in the United States, Social Security office, district offices throughout the country. And if your particular office is closed or effectively closed because, the only people left in there, don't know about retirement or survivors or SSI or whatever, every office in the country is your office. So if you can't get into your local office, call another office, Google, Boise, Idaho, or Montana, or some, smaller office, and call them up and say, hey, I need to check on the status of my check. I need to change my direct deposit. I need this, that, or the other. And they'll say, this is not your office, and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, does it have the words Social Security Administration on the outside of the building? Yeah. Well, then it is my office. Help me. So, and I'll probably get canceled from YouTube for saying this, but Congress has set up over 500 extra offices throughout the country for your needs to help you with customer service. They're called congressional offices. So call your congressperson and say, hey, what's going on? I filed for benefits. My check was stopped. I'm worried whether I'm going to get Medicare. Since you've essentially closed down my local office, you're now my customer service. You're now my contact with the Social Security Administration. What are you going to do to improve the customer service? So it was nice knowing y'all on YouTube once they, yeah, the powers that be. Anyway, so that is one trick. Another trick to get in there. Just call any office. If you can't get any justification, can't get any help from your particular office, just call another office. Call the 800 number, then try your local office. And if that doesn't work, then pick any other smaller office throughout the country. Usually the smaller offices have a little bit. And well, I used to say that all the time, but that was 2 weeks ago. The smaller offices now in smaller towns might be hurt even more because they've already got small staff. So if they lose one or two people, they might lose one or two people in those critical workloads. And yeah, then they might not be able to have any help at all. All right. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I'm just reporting, what the press releases come out with and kind of reading in between the lines and, making sure you prepare, because the system is going to, in my estimation, the system is going to be broken. It's already broken. Politicians have been kicking the can down the road for decades and decades and decades, and now kind of the chickens are coming home to roost. And didn't think it was going to happen as fast, but here it is. All right, so let's get into your specific questions. And one other thing about the local office. If you call another office, if you have a pending claim, then other offices usually can't help you. If you have a pending disability claim, then you really need to stay within your state. If because for disability, they process the medical portion at the state's DDS, the Disability Determination Services. So if you have a disability type issue, you kind of have to stay within your state. You can't call another state necessarily to help you out with something like that. So, all right. I've got tons and tons of questions. And I'm just kind of jump through here. So somebody said they missed the first part, is what happening with SSDI. I did a video on SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, on how to, make sure you're getting your CDRs and all the rest of it. So watch that video. I just did it about a week ago. So make sure you watch that video to get caught up on all SSDI. And once I'm done with this live, it's automatically posted on YouTube and TikTok or wherever. And Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. So make sure you check it out there and watch it. Clawing back overpayments with an emphasis on those who have actually committed Social Security fraud is not an attack on Social Security. Also, Social Security is not going to be taxed moving forward. Clawing back overpayments, I agree. Yeah, exactly. But those people that get caught up in an overpayment for some reason because Social Security wasn't able to do their job because they didn't have the staff, or there was some type of fraud, in not with you, but somebody committed fraud by doing this, that, or the other on your particular record, and something's reported incorrectly, and you have an overpayment that's not your fault. That is an attack on Social Security, on your personal livelihood, because you just can't go down there, walk in and get it fixed now. If your particular office you can, perfect. Social Security is not going to be taxed moving forward. Yeah, that hasn't passed yet. So please don't perpetuate that myth yet, because people are going to say, hey, I guess I don't have to. I heard Marty says there's no more taxes on Social Security, so I guess I don't have to pay taxes on that anymore. It hasn't happened yet. So please, it hasn't happened yet. Let's see here. I faxed form 1763, request for termination of premium Part A, Part B last month. I refaxed it 4 times, but I'm still enrolled in Medicare. Is there another way to get this done? I live overseas. Yeah, you can't terminate Part A unless there's an exception. That's one of the problems with Social Security, is it's not Social Security's problem. It's Congress made all these laws, and Social Security just, has to, enforce them, process them out. Okay, there we go. You're just use that form, or you're paying premium Part A. If you're paying a premium for your Part A, that means you didn't pay into Social Security long enough, and so you have to pay premium Part A. So I think you just cut and pasted the name of the form there. Okay, so what you're really doing is trying to get out of Part B, because you're living overseas and you're never going to come back into the United States. Because if you ever do come back, remember, you're going to be penalized 10% for every 12 months you were without Part B, if you ever come back. If you never come back, then, yeah, save yourself $185. Go ahead and stop it. So, yeah, and this is going to happen all the time. So, Kano in the jungle, you lost what, $600 or so, because they haven't stopped your Part B yet, and because there's nobody at the agency or whatever the case may be to process that paperwork. So, what I tell people all the time is you file a congressional, you reach out to your congressional office, wherever you're originally from in the United States, and you say, hey, here's the deal. I'm tired of paying this. You're still my representative, and yeah, fix it. So, and this is also, speaking of Medicare, this is also the Medicare open enrollment period. So if you have a Medicare Advantage, people always know I always recommend Medicare supplement plan first, a plan N or plan G if it's in your budget, or if you have TRICARE or other VA, then Medicare Advantage, check that out. But if you have Medicaid, you can't get a Medicare supplement N or G. But anyway, but if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, you can change, review, check to make sure you're still in the Medicare Advantage in the best plan for you. You have until March 31st, January, February, March. You can change your Medicare Advantage plan. So if you forgot to check it, review it, because there's tons of changes that were made for 2025. So you can reach out to my partners at Chapter. They sponsor this live Q&A to help you all out. So you can contact them. They help you for free. They'll review your Medicare Advantage plan, see if you're still in the best plan, go over your benefits with you, see if you're going to be paid more for this, that, and the other. And if you're able to, you can also now switch till the end of March. You can switch from your Medicare Advantage plan to go back to original Medicare and get a Medicare supplement plan, a plan N or a G. There is a monthly premium for that, and you might have to go through health underwriting depending on your particular state. But yeah, you can call them up and say, hey, I want to check my Medicare Advantage plan, but can I switch back to original Medicare? How much is it going to cost me? Yada, yada, yada. And then they say, oh, okay, well, no, okay, let's go back to checking Medicare Advantage plan. And they'll help you 100% free. So, let's see. The closing of the field offices started around Thanksgiving 2024. Then most closed in January 2025. This was done by Martin O'Malley, the former. He quit before Trump took off. Yeah, the Social Security was at a 50-year low. This is, that is 100% the fault of all politicians in the last 30 or 40 years. Clinton, Bush, Obama, Biden, Trump, because he was the president for 4 years as well. People are like, well, he's only been in office 2 weeks. No, he was president for 4 years. So, and all the politicians since there for the last 30 years, they have continuously failed you and those people receiving Social Security benefits by not funding Social Security and giving Social Security the resources to help you. And yes, because of that, Social Security had to go to an appointment-only system. And yeah, and now the chaos is even worse. So, yeah, this has been a long time coming. This is not something new. It's just been accelerated. It's the chaos and anarchy, unfortunately. Will they allow you to switch from getting your deceased spouse Social Security? And she wants to switch to mine, as I got a letter saying hers is more. She is, okay, good. Yes, that is called a WIB-RIB letter. So what it is if you're receiving WIB benefits, widow's insurance benefits, surviving spouse, widower benefits, and you didn't touch yours, you never started benefits on your own record. If you got that letter, that means there's more money on your own record. So what it is when you file for surviving spouse benefits, widow's benefits, you get those benefits, you don't touch yours, and you continue to get your widow's benefits, widower benefits, and your benefits continue to increase until they hit 70 years old. So she just lost 4 years of benefits, possibly, or of money, because her benefit maxes out at 70 years old, unless it was a COLA type thing. But anyway, so there's more money on her record. So yes, please reach out. If you know anybody, there is in my office, we had one person every time they got the listing of, of those WIB-RIB, the people that can get more money on their own record, they actually have to manually file for those benefits. But we used to send out the letters and people, threw it away or they had changed their address and they didn't get the letter. So if you know anybody in your community, your friends, family, relatives, or whatever, and they're, approaching 70 or over 70 and they're receiving survivor benefits only, you know, ask them, says, you worked too. And I know you worked probably equal or a little bit more than your previous, deceased spouse. Did you ever see if there's any more money on your own record? So yes, and please subscribe and like and share and all that kind of stuff so people get this information. And there's a lot of people walking around out there that are losing money every single month because they just, you don't know what you don't know. So let's see. Is my grandchild entitled to death benefits? If their parent has passed away, yes. So if they have a parent that's passed away and they're 18 or under, or that became disabled before the age of 22, then they're entitled to benefits on a parent's record that passed away. Grandchild from you, the only time they can receive benefits from a grandparent is if the grandparent adopts that child or the child's parents are either deceased or disabled, both deceased or disabled. If their parents are deceased or disabled, they can receive benefits from a grandparent. So let's see, I'm 62, meets divorce spouse benefit requirements, but ex-spouse has not filed. SSA states I can only collect on my work history until he applies. Regular viewers to my channel, yeah. Anyway, yeah, this is another thing that a lot of people are losing money on. And unfortunately, and this is going to get worse too, because a lot of the really super experts and Social Security offices throughout the country are walking out the door, and I'm trying to find the reference here. I am going to post the reference. This is called independently entitled divorced spouse benefits. I know it's a mouthful. IEDS. And I just posted the reference. Let me see if I can star this thing. All right. And I just started, so it hopefully goes to the top there. So it's independently entitled divorce spouse benefits. And unfortunately, this is what we're going to see more often is you go into an office and you ask a question about this, that, and the other. And because the people, that are left are not as good as, in all things, as the people that were, forced out or, voluntold out, people are going to get wrong information and they're going to lose benefits, like Rhonda the rehab tree. So you went into an office and you talked to probably a CSR, a customer service representative, and they're generalists, but they're not experts in, Title II or Title 16 or retirement or SSI. So what they told you is incorrect. So if you have to file for benefits on your own record, and then if your divorced spouse that you were married to for 10 years or longer, and you have since been divorced for 2 years, that's only for this one, the independently entitled divorce spouse, the 2-year divorce. That's only for this particular program. As long as your ex-spouse is 62 years old, it does not matter whether they file for benefits. That's why it's called independently entitled. They don't have to file for benefits. So you file for benefits on your own record and you say, hey, I want to file for IEDS. So if you call Social Security or walk into an office, anyway, and say, I want to file for IEDS. And if the person at the front window looks at you strange, then they don't know what it is. And you just say, hey, I want to talk to a Title II CS. And the Title II CS will come to the window or come to the phone or whatever and says, hey, I want to file for IEDS. Okay, all right, no problem. What time you want to come in? They'll know exactly what you're talking about. So unfortunately, and in your particular case, because you got wrong information, you're protected. So if you called a month ago and 2 months ago or 3 months ago or whatever, and you asked about that and they give you that wrong information, call them again, schedule an appointment. You can't do this online. Schedule an appointment and get that money. And then during the appointment, when you're talking to the person, say, by the way, I called you all 2 months ago and I was getting wrong information. They will give you that back pay, that retroactive benefits. So, um, no taxes on tips and overtime is not in the House bill. Yeah, there is no bill. Yeah, the politicians play around with the language. There's, instructions, to go find $880 billion. And the only place you can find it is in Medicaid. And so but we didn't say Medicaid. It's like, yeah. Um, so yeah, there's no technically a bill yet, but yeah, there are some actual bills that have. I talked about this a few days ago. There are a couple of 3 bills, 2 in the House and 1 in the Senate that specifically talks about this. But as we all know, growing up in the '70s from Schoolhouse Rock, a bill is just a bill and until it becomes a law. So this is just yeah, we'll see we'll see what happens. So I personally believe, yeah, there shouldn't be a taxes on Social Security benefits. You're being basically taxed twice. But if there is no taxes on Social Security, that's going to put another strain on the Social Security Trust Fund, and we're going to get cuts sooner, and they're going to be more. So yeah. Mittens Heart. Oh, super chat, $4.99. Thank you. Got my coffee IV for the day. I appreciate it. Dr. Ed, thank you for all you do. Do you have a master list of Social Security frequently asked questions? Can anyone here volunteer to help you? Very part-time basis. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Get the information out there. Share my channel over. There's a lot of YouTubers and social media people out there that talk about Social Security, and I spend a lot of time saying, okay, yes, what they said was partially correct, but there's a disqualification and there's this exception and stuff. So yeah, the most authoritative source is the Social Security, SSA.gov and Social Security employees. Well, again, if you're talking about retirement, you should talk to a Title II, CS, a claim specialist. If you're talking about SSI, then you need to talk to a Title 16 claim specialist. So when I say authoritative, you have to talk to the right person. So a lot of people, yeah. So yeah, volunteer by going out there and, if you got a local news channel or something like that, reach out to them and say, hey, Ed would like to appear, and I can, do an interview or anything like that. Absolutely. Yeah. Please listen to Ed. Ignore those in the chat telling you anything different from what he says. They're just trolls. Thank you for the support there, country. Appreciate it. Let's see. Nothing is changing, people. Nobody is cutting benefits except to those illegally getting them, like illegals and 200. Okay, yeah, that's 100% fault. There again, that is I've talked about the 112 years old that has been discounted. That has been proven false from even the current, Doge Commissioner of Social Security says, yeah, that's not correct. Thanks, Dr. Ed. Semper Fi. Thank you. Hoorah, Semper Fi. What do they expect us to do if we don't get Social Security? Yeah, I agree. What do they expect us to do? Before that happens, speak up. Contact your politicians and say, hey, this is unacceptable. Before this, I've been doing this for about a year, and I always say, hey, call your politicians and tell them, customer service at Social Security needs to improve. It's, at a 50-year low in terms of staffing. Social Security Trust Fund needs to be, fixed. We've got enough money in the bank to last us about another 8 or 9 years, but benefits are going to be cut at that time across the board. What are you doing to fix it? Yeah, it's, I love seniors. They paid in their whole lives. Yeah. And that's the travesty of the entire thing. You paid into this all of your lives. You paid into FICA, Social Security, Medicare, and part of that Social Security FICA tax that you paid for decades, part of that, a very, very small percentage. Social Security has like a 1% overhead. Allstate has, I think it was like a 13% or something. And, so Social Security has a 1% overhead, which is pretty phenomenal. And that money came from all that money you paid all those decades into FICA tax. And so with the expectation that, okay, when I get 62 years old, or when I pass and my survivor needs help, or if I need to file for disability, or if I need this, that, the other, someone will be there to help me get my benefits and make sure I'm getting the right check at the right time. And now, because of all this, yeah, it's that's no longer a guarantee. So it's basically blocking you from getting your benefits, and a lot of people are. It's essentially a backdoor benefit cut for a lot of people. What's the difference between supplements G and N? Good question. Yeah, so those are the ones I always recommend checking those out first. If it's not for you, then get a Medicare Advantage. Uh, it's better than having just Medicare alone in most circumstances, unless you have Medicaid. If you have Medicare alone and TRICARE for life, retired military, or if you have Medicaid, then even then you get a Medicare Advantage dual eligible plan and get extra benefits. But a G and an N, those are Medicare supplements. G covers everything that original Medicare doesn't. They're just a deductible that you have to pay once a year, the 255 Part D deductible for Plan G. So if you get $1 million therapy bill, you pay $257. And there's no networks, there's no prior authorizations. You don't have to beg some accountant from your health insurance company. If your doctor says, hey, you need this and it's medically necessary, then you get it. So if I go in and say, hey, I want, some hair and a brain, no, they say, yeah, it's not medically necessary. So, but if it's medically necessary, then you get it. You don't have to worry about a health insurance company approving it or prior authorizations. Plan N doesn't have that has that $257 as well. But they also charge you, if you go to a doctor, they can charge you, was it up to 20? Usually it's about $14, up to $20. If it's an emergency room, up to $50, unless you're admitted to the hospital. And Plan N doesn't cover excess charges, which most doctors, 90% of doctors in hospitals and clinics don't even charge excess charges. In some states, it's illegal to charge excess charges. But I always recommend N first, and you're like, wow, there's extra charges. But it's cheaper on a monthly basis. But if you have a lot of if you're, pretty sick then G is usually the easiest plan to understand. And you don't have those, extra little 10 or 20 or $30 there. But and the monthly premium is usually about 20% cheaper too. So I always prefer N myself because I'm a cheap person like that. But either one of those is perfect. G or an N is definitely the way to go. Again, if you can afford the monthly premium. If you can't, then you can't. And then you go ahead and get a Medicare Advantage. It takes a little bit more work, to fight, prior authorizations if you ever have to deal with one of those. The zero premium, and those are the ones that got the extra bells and whistles, the dental, vision, and hearing, and maybe the grocery cards and all the rest of it. But they're all different based on your particular state, Medicare Advantage and stuff. And then you'll need if you got a Medicare supplement, you'll need a Part D. And again, you can reach out to Chapter and say, hey, Ed gave me a kind of an overview of what the difference between G and N, but I want to add a little bit more detail, and I want to find out how much it is in my state. And Part D plan, do I need to get that? And how much is that going to be? And they'll go through it and tell them I said hi and make sure they treat you right. And if they don't, come back here and let me know. Teresa, I started drawing Social Security at 63. My husband waited till almost full retirement age. Oh, and today's today Sunday. Anyway, I don't. But they're not. Chapter's not open on Sundays. Lost my days here. I started drawing Social Security at 63. My husband waited till almost full retirement age to draw his, and when he started Social Security, I was able to draw from his, which made my check go up. Yes. So that's spouse benefits. So you file for benefits on your own record. This is called the split strategy. You file for benefits on your own record, the lower earning spouse, and then the higher earning spouse, continues working. And when they file, then you file a spouse claim. So you're basically getting both benefits. You're getting your benefits plus up to 50% of his, and yours is offset. The calculations are kind of interesting, but Let's see. Senator Kinney is the one who told about the 112 years old. Yeah, yeah, and he's been using that. It's an attempt to. When he did this video recently, he did this. I know he didn't really specifically say these people are getting benefits. 100, they're 100, 112 years old. He didn't say it specifically, but when he was talking about it, then he moved into overpayments and people getting paid that shouldn't get, and people put those two together and say, "Hey, Senator Kennedy said 112 year." He specifically didn't say it because he knows it's not true. He knows it's just a computer thing, and these people are not receiving benefits. But the idea is to undermine public trust and confidence in Social Security, because when you break that down, it's so easy to break everything else. All right, this is let's see what else we hear. Said okay, yeah, there are a lot of people in here. Says Ed is crying and. Let's see. Contract politicians, the trolls do a terrible job at personal attacks. Yeah, old Marine Corps sergeant. I'm gonna have to give a class on personal attacks one day and show you how it's really done. But yeah, it's kind of funny. I can't beat Staff Sergeant Lone from boot camp. Staff Sergeant Lone, you're out there, please come on, and I'll have you come in one day and you can give people a class on how to attack people personally. And yeah. If you're still out there, contact politicians. They no longer work for us. Their banking accounts is exploding with the stolen tax dollars. We have to try. Yeah, we have to try. Let's see here. Okay, there is no Social Security fraud. Doge is lying to the American people. Oh, yeah, no, there is Social Security fraud. Social Security employees, our office, my office, offices throughout the country find it all the time. The Office of the Inspector General finds it on a regular basis. All you have to do is Google, and in your particular state or area, and says, yes, local woman gets thrown in jail for Social Security fraud or stuff. It happens all the time. And if Doge can come up with a better, there is, Social Security can be improved. Obviously, the computer system can be improved. Fraud is out there. If they can help, with the computer systems and finding fraud, particularly disability fraud, is probably the biggest area of fraud, other than people stealing people's IDs and stuff like that, and changing their direct deposit and stuff. But yeah, I mean, anything like that they can help with, but don't use that as a club to say, okay, well, because Ed doesn't have any hair, then all the rest of him is completely worthless. And yeah, my wife clicks in there. Well, maybe sometimes. Doge is not auditing these government programs. They're hacking them and taking all of our personal information. Don't be fooled. Yeah, they're definitely in the system. And read only. Yeah, maybe one. Yeah, I don't know. Because again, remember that the current acting commissioner of Social Security, he said himself, he's taking orders from Doge. So do they have more than read only access? Yes. If the commissioner of Social Security has access, then he's Doge. This is our money we put into the trust fund all of our working lives. If he cuts it in pure theft, we need to fight back and fight back hard. They're raided the trust funds many times. Yeah, that's kind of a false thing that the trust fund has never been raided. It's not fake money and all the rest of this stuff. The reason why there's an issue going forward is, let me take this out here, is these are 2023 numbers, but in 2023, the 2024 isn't in yet, but in 2023, Social Security received $1.1 trillion in income. That is from people paying FICA taxes, on a monthly basis, and also $49.8 billion from taxes, people that pay taxes on their Social Security benefits. So if taxes end on Social Security benefits, fine, but there's another $50 billion lost there. And there's $63 billion in interest, because Social Security is so flush with cash, they loan that money to the government, and the government's borrowing that money and they're paying it back with interest. The problem is 1.1 trillion is coming in, but 1.2 trillion about is going out every month or every year. And then there's a difference there, about $70 billion. And where does that $70 billion come from? It comes from the trust fund. So the trust fund is about 2.6-ish. And so now it's probably, exactly 2.6. And once the 2024 numbers come out, it might be 2.5. And then after this year, it might be 2.3. And you see the savings are slowly going down. And then what happens is the savings completely run out in 2034, or maybe early if they cut taxes on Social Security and all that. So once this much comes in and that much goes out, what's going to happen? What's going to cover the gap? Up until then, it was the trust fund, but now no more trust fund. So people are just going to have to take cuts. And people say, well, they won't touch mine because I'm currently receiving Social Security. No, that's not the way the law is written. If Social Security gets X amount coming in, that's how much they pay out, unless there's a slush fund, which is the trust fund. So people that think the money is all fake and all the rest of that stuff, that's why I put the little donation thing down there. There's that little donation thing there. So if you think the trust fund was stolen and given to Ukraine or illegals or politicians or whatever the case may be, it's not a fact. It was loaned, but we're getting it back with interest, and it is real money. Politicians and Wall Street want us to think it's fake money, so we can just say, well, yeah, go ahead and take it's fake money anyway. And they're like, oh, okay. But if you think it's fake money, then if you're receiving Social Security, probably 7, 8, 9% of your Social Security check every month comes from the trust fund. So if you think that 7, 8, 9% of your check every month is fake money, please donate it to your local animal shelter or your homeless shelter or, school or whatever the case may be. So if you think it's fake money, please donate it, because people out there will definitely like that fake money. All right. So let's see here. Question: moving back to California April 1st for medical reasons. Need insurance to switch over right away. On SSI, direct deposit, same bank. When should I notify Social Security? Desperate. Thank you. Okay. So you're moving back to California. So if you're on SSI, regardless, if you move from one state to another and you're on SSI, which means you're also probably on Medicaid, Medicaid is administered by the states. So you will have to switch Medicaid. So when you go back to California, you'll switch to Medicaid. And California, they always have to be original. They don't call it Medicaid. They call it Meta-Cal, because anyway, some states call it a little bit different. So you'll have to switch to Medi-Cal. So you reach out to them. You notify Social Security when you get to your new place. Because you're on SSI, you have to do a living arrangement change. So when you're on SSI, as you know, Supplemental Security Income, the welfare-based program, anytime you have a change, you have to pay more for rent or less for rent, or you're living with this person and do they take their income into consideration? So you have to contact Medi-Cal and your local Social Security office to do a living arrangement change. Sounds like your bank account, everything is going to stay the same. So yes, as soon as you know your address and everything like that, and how much your rent is going to be, contact those two organizations immediately. And if you're receiving Medicaid and Medicare, you probably have one of the Medicare Advantage dual eligible plans, dual eligible Medicare and Medicaid. And those are area specific. So the Medicare Advantage dual eligible plan that you have now, with the extra benefits and grocery cards or whatever, if you have that, when you move to California, you need to switch your Medicare Advantage dual eligible plan to a local plan. And again, you can reach out to a chapter and they can help you with that 100% free. So those are the two definitely, but the other one possibly. Steve, thank you for the support. I was 62 and asked if I could use my ex's record, and they said the same thing is wrong to the rehab tree. Is there a record of my inquiry? Almost 70 now. Wow. Yeah. So if they told you couldn't because the other person had to file first, then yeah, I would contact them and say, no, that's not the case. Possibly in your case, what it was is, your benefits have to be less than half of your spouse or ex-spouse if they're still alive. So if you call Social Security and say, hey, I filed for benefits by my own record and I want to see if I'm entitled to any benefits from my spouse or ex-spouse that I was married to for 10 years, they will look. But in your particular case, probably, hopefully, it's because of the PIA, the primary insurance amount. Your full benefit amount at your full retirement age has to be less than half of the full benefit amount at full retirement age of your ex or your spouse. And if it's not, then no, you're not entitled to benefits. But there's one thing people mess up on and lose money. Please share and subscribe and like so this information gets out there. I'm tired of saying that, but unfortunately, that's what we have to do for these computer AI algorithms. Anyway, we have to teach them to be compassionate. But if you are receiving spouse benefits or you call about spouse benefits, and you say, hey, I filed for benefits on my own record, and am I entitled to any spouse benefits? And they look and they say, nope, you're not entitled to any benefits because your benefit amount is less than half of that person's. The Social Security employee should finish that sentence and say, however, if that person passes away, then it's not 50%. You can get up to 100%. So there's a lot of people walking out there, maybe someone that called Social Security, 2, 3, 4 years ago, and they were told they're not entitled to benefits on that person's record at that time. But now, if that person has passed away, reach out to them and say, hey, weren't you married to someone, in your 20s or 30s or 40s? It doesn't matter if, you were married and divorced, if you were married, if this is your first ex and you were married 2, 3, 4 times and now you're single, then you can get benefits on that first, second, or third. And so maybe your second ex was benefit amount is more, and that person is now deceased, you're entitled to more. So let's reach out to people and see if, see what's going on. Let's see. Okay. I'm just picking randomly here and see what pops up. But the point is, they are not actively and truly looking for fraud. They are looking for ways and means to dismantle Social Security, thereby handling over to privatization Wall Street. Yeah, they haven't found any fraud yet. They made a lot of allegations about, the old, the chestnut about, people 112, 150 years old getting benefits, but that's been proven. That's an old story going back, for decades. And everybody, even the acting commissioner of Social Security said, yeah, this is not right. So yeah, they haven't found any fraud yet. I'm not saying there isn't fraud at Social Security. Of course there is. Most of the time it's people on disability working and not notifying Social Security. They are able to work. So we used to get, in my office, usually it was an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend or wife or husband or something like that, trying to drop the dime on their, someone they don't like anymore, and saying, hey, or my next door neighbor receiving disability benefits, but they're working. Well, you're allowed to work under and receive disability benefits. There's a lot of limitations. There's what's called the trial work period, where for 9 months you can try and make $1 billion a month and collect Social Security benefits and try to work, because Social Security wants you to go back to work. So you no longer receive disability benefits after that 9 months, and you will continue to pay taxes, FICA taxes. So it works out for everybody. You make more money working, you get off the disability, and you pay more taxes. So it's a win-win-win situation. So that's why Social Security has all of these programs to help you go back to work, to try to see if you go back to work. And quite often that was what we received at my local office was, hey, this person is actually working. So we would contact our OIG, Office of the Inspector General. He used to come into our office once a week. Hey, Mike. And he'd say, you got anything for us? Says, yeah, got to report that this person, next door neighbor, whoever said this person is working. And they go out there and knock on the door and say, hey, you're working. Yeah, I'm in my trial work period. I've been working for 6 months. I might be able to continue. I might, oh, okay, well, good luck to you. And that's the law. That's the way Congress wrote it. And, but remember, if you work after that, your check is going to stop during that 36-month extended period of eligibility. Again, these are all laws written by Congress to help people go back to work. And remember, once you hit your full retirement age, we used to get this a lot of time too. Once you hit your full retirement age, you're on disability benefits, and you're no longer on disability benefits. So what happens is you're on disability benefits, you hit your full retirement age, 66 and 8 months or 67, your benefits are automatically switched from disability benefits to regular retirement benefits. So you no longer have any work limitations because you're on retirement. You no longer have those CDRs, the continuing disability reviews, because you're on retirement. And that's when, we used to get, notification, oh, this person is working. And it's like, well, the person's 70 years old. They can do whatever they want. Leave them alone. So again, that's the way Congress wrote it. If you disagree with that, then the law needs to be changed. But as of right now, they're completely allowed to do that. And again, you might disagree with it, but yeah. Let's see. I'm 60 years old, retired law enforcement officer who was injured on the job and became disabled collecting Social Security disability. But after 26 years, I also collected a pension for New York City. Do I get retroactive? So you're part of collected a pension for New York City. So you're probably, sounds like you're asking about the Social Security Fairness Act that was just passed a few weeks ago. And possibly if you didn't pay into Social Security, then if your benefit amount is being wept, the windfall elimination provision, and that's already on the record. They've already reprogrammed the system and those benefits are being released already. People come in here all the time and say, yeah, I just got my check and my retroactive benefits. And they're supposed to do it back to January of 2024. And it's typical Congress thing. They wrote it, the Social Security Fairness Act, and it only applies to 3% of people. And the HR 82 was only 2 sentences. Typical Congress, they said, hey, do this. And then, okay, how exactly should we do it? What about this particular exception? And Congress said, we're out. We've told you kind of, what to do. It's like, build a house. Okay, all right, we'll go build a house. How big do you want? Yeah, you figure it out. So that's kind of the way it is. And unfortunately, Social Security has to kind of, and then people say, oh, you didn't follow the law. Well, we did follow the law, but they didn't. The law they wrote, politicians write crappy laws. And so, all right. I am way over an hour. I always like to keep these to about an hour or so. So please, I hope nothing happens with you, your family, relatives, but it does. If it does, I've given you some, resources, some tools to address that when it does happen. I am going to continue to watch and for the press releases and read between the lines, and I'll continue to be here pretty much on a daily basis. And if I see a pattern of stuff happening out there, we'll come up with a plan of attack to see how we can address that so you don't get your benefits cut off and you're able to restart your benefits sooner. Hopefully it doesn't happen to you, your family, and your loved ones. But there it is. Y'all take care. Have a beautiful night. And please, please, please take care of each other.